You think you know the Titanic? Think again. These are 5 mind-blowing facts about the most famous ship in history, secrets that even the most dedicated enthusiasts often miss, and that you won't soon forget. From iconic photos to mysterious disappearances, get ready to see the Titanic story in a whole new light. I'm Chris Frame, a maritime history author and lecturer, and my passion lies in uncovering the untold stories of the great liners. Today, we're diving into some of the most surprising truths about RMS Titanic, starting with a visual trick that fools millions. Fact number 1 might just change how you see the Titanic forever. Many of the Titanic photos you've seen, well, they're actually photos of her sister ship, the Olympic. It sounds crazy, but while the Titanic became the most famous ship in the world in 1912, this wasn't always the case. She was the second of the Olympic-class liners, all sharing a remarkably similar external appearance, internal layout, and luxurious fittings. The Olympic launched first in 1910 and sailed on her maiden voyage nearly a year before Titanic. She garnered the initial immense public attention, and White Star Line invested considerable time and funds in extensively photographing Olympic. Photography back in 1910 was a big deal, much more complicated and costly than it is today. But as the largest liner in the world, they were keen to showcase Olympic's immense interiors. While Titanic was also photographed before she entered service, only rooms unique to her were snapped. Since the two ships were so incredibly similar in most public spaces, it wasn't deemed necessary to re-photograph them for Titanic. It is precisely for this reason that some of the most well-known Titanic photos that you've encountered, including the iconic images of the Grand Staircase, are in fact from on board the Olympic. There are, shockingly, no known photographs of Titanic's Grand Staircase. Next, a heartwarming and a heartbreaking detail. Dogs were passengers on the Titanic. When the Titanic sailed for America in 1912, the only way to cross the Atlantic was by ship. Aircraft technology was in its absolute infancy. This left people, especially first-class travellers with means, little choice but to sail, even if it meant bringing their beloved pets. White Star Line absolutely accommodated this. Proud owners of the dogs on board Titanic were even expected to host a special dog show for the first-class passengers on Sunday the 15th of April. However, fate intervened tragically when the ship went down in the early hours of that morning. Of the 12 dogs that sailed with Titanic, only 3 miraculously survived the disaster. That's a 25% survival rate, which is, tragically, better than the survival rate of the crew, 76% of whom perished with the ship when she went down. As a fascinating side note, the Titanic also had a ship's cat, a common practice at the time, and the cat was named Jenny. She had previously sailed with the Olympic and was on board to keep the stowaway rodents at bay. While Jenny's ultimate fate is unknown, rumours circulated that she left the ship before departure, which was seen as a dire omen by many of the crew, though the true story will never really be known. Here's a revelation that might surprise you. The Titanic wasn't the fastest nor the most technologically advanced ship of her time. When the Titanic entered service, shipbuilding design was progressing at an incredible pace at the turn of the 20th century. Just 5 years prior, Cunard's Lusitania had revolutionised transatlantic travel. At over 31,000 gross registered tons, she was almost twice the size of earlier liners like White Star Line's Oceanic, and crucially introduced revolutionary, albeit still experimental, steam turbines. These turbines were a masterstroke, allowing Lusitania to capture the transatlantic speed record. With this in mind, you'd logically think that Titanic, built in 1912, would have pushed the envelope even further. But this wasn't really the case. While Titanic was a very big ship for her day, the biggest in the world when she entered service at 46,329 gross registered tons, larger than Lusitania and even the speedier Mauretania, she was nowhere near double their size. The sheer size of Titanic and Olympic was of immense public interest and something White Star Line heavily promoted in their sales material. However, the Titanic was notably slower than both Lusitania and Mauretania. Titanic and Olympic employed a combination power plant. The Olympic-class ships were triple screw, meaning they used one less propeller than their Cunard rivals, with the central turbine powering the one central propeller, while reciprocating engines powered the 2 outboard propellers. That said, their slower speed wasn't an issue for White Star Line. The The company had deliberately opted out of the transatlantic speed race, choosing instead to woo passengers with the unparalleled quality of the onboard experience. The Titanic had an entire post office on board. Like most British ships of the era, the Titanic was designated RMS, or Royal Mail Ship. As a result, she carried mail for the Royal Mail across the Atlantic, and this intricate process was managed by an onboard post office. To assist with this monumental task, Titanic not only had the post office itself, but also a dedicated mail sorting room where thousands of letters and parcels could be manually sorted during the voyage. A dedicated team of 5 postal workers would undertake this critical task, allowing for the time at sea to be efficiently utilised to prepare the mail for its ultimate destination in the Americas. Tragically, all 5 of these men perished in the disaster. Had the Titanic survived her maiden voyage, she would have then taken on mail in America to bring it back to the United Kingdom. And here's another fun fact that you might not know. You could even send a letter home from on board the Titanic whilst the ship was at sea. This fascinating tradition is actually carried on today aboard Cunard's RMS Queen Mary II, the last of the transatlantic liners and the last big ship to be designated RMS. And finally, a fact that's a chilling twist of fate. The Titanic's maiden voyage was nearly a month late. The Titanic was initially intended to depart on her maiden voyage on March 20, 1912. However, this had to be significantly delayed due to her sister ship Olympic needing urgent repairs. The Olympic had collided with the HMS Hawke on the 5th of October 1911 near the Isle of Wight, resulting in both ships being badly damaged and requiring them to be taken out of service. The damage to Olympic was focused on the aft end of the ship and critically included severe damage to her propeller shaft. To get the Olympic back into service quickly, Harland and Wolff, in a desperate move, took workers and crucial parts from the Titanic, which was still under construction at the time. This included actually taking one of the propeller shafts from Titanic to utilise it on the Olympic. As a result, the Titanic's maiden voyage was delayed because the construction of the ship itself was delayed and they had to get the new parts to complete her building. Ultimately, Titanic's maiden voyage was delayed by 3 weeks, pushing her entry into service to April 10, 1912. While the sinking of the Titanic was a highly publicised maritime disaster, where many lives were lost, there were some outcomes that helped maritime safety in the future. Several in-depth inquiries were launched into the disaster, and from these inquiries, new regulations and recommendations were made that continue to influence shipping safety even today. Some of these vital changes include the requirement that there are now enough life jackets and lifeboats for every single person carried on board a vessel. There's also the establishment of the International Ice Patrol, which continuously monitors icebergs in the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. Radio rooms on board ships became mandated to be manned 24/7, something that was done on board the Titanic, but not the standard on board many smaller liners. Additionally, the very first version of the International Safety of Life at Sea Convention, or SOLAS, was created, which specifies minimum standards for the construction, equipment, and safety procedures of vessels. What other shocking Titanic secrets do you know? Share them in the comments below. If you found these insights as fascinating as I did, please like this video and subscribe for more untold stories on maritime history. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out, and check out the Expert Cruise Show for more information about cruising and cruise ships. As always, a huge thank you to our channel members who help make these videos possible, and until next time, I hope to see you on board for more deep dives.